Hey there, this is Emily and Bernie from Third Place Works, where we help co-working professionals with tailored cohorts and one-on-one consulting. Our proven frameworks can help you get focused, stay accountable, and see real results. Want to learn more? Check out the show notes for all the details on how to join us and take your co-working business to the next level.
Hello, folks. It is another Co-working Values podcast. I keep meaning to change that beginning. So, Claire Carpenter, where are you in the world?
Costa Blanca.
We're in the same. I hate to show off, folks, but we're in the same country podcasting. So, this year, 2025, Claire, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Ooh. This year, 2025, I am known for someone who's left running one of Europe's first co-working hubs. No longer doing that. I'm no longer a practitioner of co-working. I am a coach and a van lifer and a climber. And I actually got to introduce myself at a networking event last summer. And the first bit that I introduced myself was as climber. So I'm having a grey gap year. That's possibly what people might know me for in 2025. A gay gap year that might turn into just a lifestyle.
That sounds terrible. Like driving around Europe in a
nice camper van, enjoying the sunshine, getting away from the Scottish winter.
So, with why I dragged you into the studio today is this. I want to explore this small town co-working, building relationships with. I'm trying to not say stakeholder, but other stakeholders in the community and stuff like that. So, if I I'm in a town, maybe like Basingstoke or Huntington, and I want to set up a co-working space, like, do I do that? Do I just set up a co-working space and hope people come? Because there's this wave of.
Do you want to run a co-working hub? Is that what you want to do, or do you want to participate in one? A lot of people get attracted to the idea of setting up a co-working hub business because they want it for themselves. That's definitely a way in for many people. But yeah, is it something that you want to exist or something you want to make exist? They're two very different things.
That's like running a bar, isn't it? Everyone wants to run a bar until they run a bar. And that's the hospitality connection.
Hours, please.
So when you set up because that's a great place to start. There's this romantic view of like everyone will come and we'll be a nice community and we'll all drink coffee and we'll Instagram our cupcakes and stuff like that. And why is it? I mean, I'm asking for a friend here. Like, why is it such hard work to run a co-working space in a small town?
Viability. A small town has got a limited number of potential customers, and if you mess it up with that limited number of small customers, you make it difficult to get more new customers because there isn't a market pool. You've also got a small pool to draw upon and small physical space. And really the costs of having a bigger space, 10,000 square foot, not 3,000 square foot, the costs of running that are not significantly different other than your rent. So it's trying to stay modest in ambition if you're running a small physical space, so that what you deliver is affordable to the customer and affordable in terms of your energy to deliver, because everybody wants more and more and more for less and less money, in my opinion. So
in this little arena of small town, I'm just a small town co-working space. I was trying to do a journey there, but so there's this knife edge of balancing the business, and you alluded to this before we came on air, like balancing the business needs and balancing the community needs. Because even in places like London, which is where I know the best, there's lots of people who love to come to your space, but you need to like get them in there. And how can you balance that?
How do you balance getting people in there?
How do you balance your the question? Sorry, I didn't say that very well. Like balance. Knocking around in my head is like taking care of yourself, and you have to like organize your whole business, and you set out with this vision of like, we could be a hub for the local community and it'll all be like lovely and Trumpton. But then there's that cold-hearted cash thing.
Yeah. Well, my answer is going to be cash. Really, it's going to be understanding the cost of delivery, and I think people don't really understand how much work goes into setting up and opening a co-working hub. And so for customers, they might go, oh, space A charges, let's say, £200 a month. Space B charges £210 a month. I'm going to go with space A. But space B might have spent significant more on their infrastructure. They may pay their staff better. They may have better coffee, better Wi-Fi. For the extra £10, the potential customer might go, oh, I don't need to spend that extra tenner. But it's like, where's the money going? And what's the investment? How much time and effort did it take to get off the ground? No two co-working hubs have the same trajectory, and even if you're an organisation that's got multiple hubs under your belt, no two spaces are going to cost the same to set up. The learning curve on getting space 1 open is massive. The learning curve on setting up space 2 is not as big, and the learning curve on setting up space 3 is much less again. So as an operator, you're going to make savings by opening up more spaces. But many people don't want to run more than 1, 2, or 3 spaces. There's plenty. You've got all sorts of headaches with staff, running different locations. Becoming just running multiple locations has its own headache. You've got to get your staff team to a certain size to be able to do so. So maybe you stick with one space. And if you're only sticking with one space from the outset, it's going to be a lean business. It's like running a single B&B bed and breakfast accommodation suite versus setting up a chain of a hotel chain. Very, very different things.
A guest house by the seaside with constant hot water.
Yes.
If you remember.
Yeah, where the owner never gets to leave the seaside. They're there all the time. They're there in the summer and they're doing repairs in the winter.
So as you wander around the co-working universe, what sort of people do you meet who want to run a co-working, that one person or two person co-working operation? Is there an archetype?
Yeah, well, these days I think there's people who've left the corporate world. That's what I witness, who are dissatisfied with whatever the corporate world is. I've never been there myself. So they're not the sort of, in the olden days when we first got to know each other, ye olden days, there were individuals who were probably already doing community development type work. They understood that language, they understood the need for community development, and they were applying it to people that they knew. If we look at the startup era. And now I think the business model is well known. The corporate sector utilize co-working spaces, and individuals who've been in corporates go, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather work closer to home. They've got a bit of money behind them. They've had some investment. They've had professional training, and they're looking for business ideas that might fly and the community to go with it.
Yeah. What's I forgot my question. I went blank. So I'm going to ask you that citizenship question, because we were talking about that before we came on, and everyone listening to this podcast knows I'm enamored with the citizenship conversation, not in a sort of Greek citizenship kind of way, but like I'm going to call it taking part in your local society or your local community. And I run around saying this all the time, like co-working hubs can be part of the local community, and they can replace where we used to go to the pub or our place of worship and community centres. How would, as I vomit that idea on you, are you like, yes, that's the future, Bernie, or is that a reality, or do we need to have a reality check?
I think the early pioneers in co-working and early pioneers in taking co-working from the bigger metropolises, the cities, out into rural areas, those types of pioneers. They are citizens in the way that you would describe them. I would call them social activists. They've got a bigger agenda than just making a business work. They're like trying to create social capital and meaning for themselves and social capital in the world. But I think that in 2025, they're up against a world that is even more expensive than it was. Well, this is the trajectory we're on. You know, the cost of living, the cost of running spaces, the cost of employing staff, the expectation from customers about what their basic service needs are, is extremely high. So, can citizens, as you call them, concerned citizens create co-working hubs, independent co-working hubs? Yes, of course they can. Lots of development trusts, community organisations, and individual entrepreneurs will create viable, small, independent co-working hubs, but it will be an upward battle because they're operating in a very commercialised and very expensive world.
So I've met a lot of those people, and I think you have too, but I don't want to accuse you directly of that, who are on that. Social activist is a great term, but they get really burnt out.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I sometimes meet those people and they're burnt out and they don't understand why they're burnt out. They're like, I'm doing all this good, trying to help other people and I'm trying to help other people and run a business at the same time. And I didn't realize it would end up like this.
Yeah. Well, you haven't asked me a direct question, but after 20 years from going from idea and concepts through into business planning, securing a building, fundraising, getting initial customers in, designing the methodologies that have been adopted widely in lots of co-working practices and in co-living, like 20 years of that, I'm absolutely exhausted. And it's hard. It's hard running a small business over the last 2 decades. And by small business, I mean like looking after yourself and your team and your customers, and knowing everybody's name. That type of small business. It's like if you ran a pub. You're not up there and you haven't got 500 staff underneath you. I have no idea what that is like. So I don't know how you get the balance, Bernie. I really don't know how you get the balance between the constantness of running an organization. Success. If you'd ever told me 20 years ago that I'd have been successful with this concept and I'd have got past first year or the third year or the fifth year, oh my God, or the 15th year, if you'd have told me that, I would have been gobsmacked and delighted, but also terrified at the idea that it would last so long. I could never have imagined it. But now looking back 20 years on, it's like, wow, it keeps on going, just constantly going. So my one bit of advice is find something really affordable to rent.
Yeah.
If you're renting. And the second bit of advice is own. And I've lived in housing co-ops and I'm interested in property, but if I would, I don't know, who knows what the property market will do in the future, but money seems to be made from owning property. So become a buyer, not a renter.
So going on to that property thing, I'm looking for the loop. I'm looking for the jump to the that is it Huntington where you set up the
Huntley Development Trust. Yeah.
Because there's that's it. When was that? That's like 5 or 6 years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah, they were securing Huntley Development Trust. Huntley is a small village. It would say it's a town, but in English standards, it would definitely be considered a village in rural Aberdeenshire, northern Scotland. And there's not a lot going on in that town physically anymore, because business has changed over the last 150 years. And the Development Trust does amazing work. It's a non-profit organisation, and the job is to make good stuff happen for the citizens, the people of the area. And they've got all sorts of initiatives, and they've become a little bit well, they've got all sorts of fingers in pies, but they took on an old RBS bank premises and an old department store, and have turned those into different types of community hub, co-working space, shop, cafe. I wonder whether the development trust is like the local mafia, really, in terms of they can afford, because they're not paying rates on the premises. So as we were discussing, trying to run a high street business that's based on a shop, it comes with all sorts of costs associated with it that make it very difficult to run facilities these days.
So if I wanted to set up a co-working hub, would I have to know the person that runs that building, or is it because there's other way? I might not have £500,000 to go and buy a building
No.
and the rent and get an investment and all like that. What is a way to sort of start out and get into that kind of project?
Well, there was talk a few years ago where there were going to be lots of friendly landlords who were very interested in finding an occupier, a co-working leader, to set up and run a co-working hub from the landlord's premises. But I thought the trend has shifted so that the landlords are wanting to be the co-working operator now. Is that what you understand?
I see both.
You see both. I think both are there.
And I'm not, and it's almost like 50-50. And then if people say, oh, are they going to run it? Are they going to run it themselves? That seems the question everyone asks. Are they getting an operator in, or are they running themselves? And of course, the operators ask, are they getting an operator in? And I think so there's one group we're working with, and they will be really good at running it. And there's other people we've worked with where they should definitely have got an operator in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this out loud, but generally speaking, when we do projects with local authorities, they definitely should have got an operator in, because there's so many levels of. I'm glad you said that so keenly. There's so many levels of bureaucracy and writing off, and you have to explain it to.
They just haven't got the right cultural fit and skill set.
Okay, that's good. I felt bad saying that because I know there's a lot of well-intentioned
it's not bad people. It's just they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for economic development, and they've got jobs in the council and. It's a different thing. Like an indie co-working hub operator is not a council employee who's trying to create a hub for economic development, who's used to getting some kind of subsidy, and then if the subsidy disappears, boom, the whole thing's gone up the swanny. But then again, indie operators have to compete against council white elephant projects. So,
what is the value in that? Sorry, that's not my question. Could councils do those white elephant projects in a better way? Because the idea of a library being turned into a co-working hub is like a no-brainer, and there are places where that's worked, but I'm surprised that hasn't become more of a thing. It's like a purpose-built building owned by the council, and there's very few examples that come forward where there's like, I really thought, just to say the same thing again, I thought by now, since in the last 10 years, I would expect every library to have some form of co-working hub in it, and it just hasn't happened.
No, I wonder why, because we were helping people create co-working hubs in libraries in Scotland. And then COVID came along. And is it to do with a local authority's mind, organisational mind, is actually on very different targets? White middle class, not necessarily white and not necessarily middle class, but people are using co-working hubs, trying to develop businesses. It's not the highest on the council's agenda, is it? Like, they've got other services to be delivering than setting up co-working hubs.
I would have thought I would like it to be the case. And there's two. I'm not going to say where they are, but there's two boroughs in London next door to each other, and I know them both really well. And one, they've commissioned 5 reports about does their borough need an affordable workspace,
Oh yeah.
and then
And the answer is yes.
yes,
Yes.
why are you
Don't
still
need to
doing
commission a
this?
report about that. We all need affordable workspace, of course.
And then the boroughs on either side
Yeah.
have affordable workspaces. So it's like, it's not like, do we need an airport? No, we don't need an airport because there's one in the borough next door. It's like, there's about 300,000 people in these 3 boroughs, and either side there's affordable workspaces and projects, and the one in the middle is still going, is this something we need? And then I think what happens is someone has a new job and they commission a report, but they don't find the report that was made beforehand. And
it's a lot easier to commission reports and read reports than it is to do something about what's in the reports.
And I would have thought, and one of those reports we made, and it was like we didn't even have to think about it. It was like when people are not going somewhere else to work, because in that borough, people go to the boroughs next door to go to work and then come back to the borough without any affordable workspace. And it's about keeping the economic value and all that kind of thing in the same place.
They're different creatures, the council, and the timescales that they're playing towards. So what would be wonderful is if local authorities and the government could be thinking about what are the resources going to be required in 10 years and 20 years' time. But they're so busy dealing with 4-year life cycles and being bankrupted. Local authorities are pretty bankrupted. Governments are too busy. God knows what the governments are busy dealing with, but it's not forward thinking. It's not futuristic thinking. And it can't think of, it can't commit to a 10 or 20-year plan because of the 4-year voting cycles. So we're just, I don't know, it feels like a race to the bottom to me. That's after many decades of living in this planet.
That's a whole podcast in itself. But so putting that 100 years worth of co-working experience together and looking around in 2025, this is the finishing move, Claire, that we've got to come up with. Okay, what's your hope for 2025 and I'm going to call it the co-working movement?
My hope is that more good people who run good spaces manage to sustain not just the business but themselves, because these hubs are part of our economic recovery. In whichever country, we're all struggling economically. So staying alive, surviving 2025, and he's dancing, people, he's dancing. Staying alive and surviving whilst the repercussions of the last few years really continue to play out. And what I'm scared of is indie spaces, or not just indie spaces, but the financial race to the bottom, because people are feeling squeezed. They're not financially, individuals are feeling squeezed, but businesses are squeezed, and nobody wants to scare customers and potential customers away. But how do we play the long game? How can you get customers to value the facility that has survived these last few years and continue to invest in it because they want it to be there in another 3 years or 5 years or 10 years? People stop using the libraries. We'll come back to libraries. People stop using the libraries, and now there's a whole, we've got to keep our libraries. Like, you've got to use a place. The pubs, they've disappeared. If you want it, use it. Help the co-working spaces survive. And for the owner-operators, I hope that you can find that balance between not scaring off a customer, but getting your costs recovered and getting enough time to look after yourself and your team.
Beautiful. Where can we find you online, Claire Carpenter?
Well, to my dearest friends, and I mean friends, I'm on Facebook because I'm old school. But for my professional world, I am in LinkedIn. I'm TMP, as in the melting pot, Claire, TMP Claire, and on Instagram, I'm Claire Carpenter Coaching, and Claire is with an I and an E. They gave me 6 whole letters when I was born.
Link in the show notes for all of that, folks. And as always, if you go to the show notes, which we're immensely proud of, there's a link to European Co-working Day, which is on the 14th of May 2025. That's where we are. I've been saying that all the way through 2024 and lost my thread. There is also a link to the LinkedIn co-working group, where people post from all around. What we like to say is it's a worldwide conversation that's also local, something like that. Some cute way of saying it in there. And then if you're in London, which I know you're not, Claire, and it's the first year I don't think you're going to be there, is the Workspace Design Show, which is at the Business Design Centre, and that's an amazing 2-day event that's free to attend, and there's lots of people from around the European co-working family gathering there to have workspace conversations, but you can look at cutting edge coffee makers and catch up with your mates. So
Beautiful
wherever you're,
design things.
Say again?
Beautiful design things. You can go all geeky about like which type of things you can't afford, but it's very nice to look at.
It is, and run your hand over £5,000 chairs and stuff
Soft
like that.
furnishings.
Soft furnishings. So wherever you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen, be careful out there. It is a jungle.